Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Catalyst Women's After Town Hall breakout session, where we are here to empower diversity through relationship, research, education, and mentorship. You can join us here weekly for compelling interviews and curated topic discussions. This breakout is powered by women, but it is open to all. We aim here to create a welcoming environment for everyone, no matter the gender, geography, economic status, creed, or blockchain affiliation. For any ladies who are interested in building relationship and community in a more intimate setting outside of today's breakout, please shoot Megan, Juliana, or myself, who are in the room today, your contact info, or go to the website at cardanocatalyst.women.com, where you can also find more resources, and shoot us a message through the contact page there. And now we also have a Catalyst Women Twitter account, so you can go follow us there at @CCW_ADA. Today, though, we have a very special interview and a brainstorming session with Tomi Astikainen. Did I say it right, Tommy? He told me to say it with a robot voice in order to get it right.
That's fine, Kovasi.
Okay. So Tommy has been active in Catalyst since Fund 3. He's a veteran community advisor, a challenge team member and setter. He is a funded proposer. He is one of the very first people that helped welcome me into the community and started my Catalyst journey, but that's not all. He holds a master's degree in economics and business administration. He's a designer, a Kickstarter, team and organizational development specialist, and strategic consultant. He's authored 6 books, including his latest release, Crypto Curious, and Rich Without Money. To understand people from all walks of life, survive with less, become a seasoned problem solver, and deeply know himself, he spent 4 years from 2010 to 2014 living completely without money and hitchhiking in 42 countries. Amazing. Not only am I excited for Tommy to share about his journey, but I'm excited to open the room up later for idea sharing about collaborative strategy making and leadership enablement within our community. And the focus of one of Tommy's Fund 8 funded proposals, which he actually co-proposed with our very own Nadia Hopkins, titled The Catalyst GPS. So with all of that said, thank you, Tommy, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it's really important in our fast-paced environment here where we're all building to make sure we don't lose touch with our humanity in this new Web3 world. And I think being able to open up and get to know each other is the only way that our growing ecosystem is going to stay empathetic and not forget why we're working so hard in the first place. So I'm excited not only for today, but for Mercy's interview next week as well. So go ahead and tell us. I'd love to learn a little bit more about yourself and your journey into crypto.
Now that's an open-ended question.
Yes.
Something about myself. Well, I am a 40-year-old family man from Finland, and my daughter is 2 years old. So before she was born, I had a very different kind of lifestyle, and now I'm a very boring, ordinary guy, right? I started writing books at a very early age, and started writing at a very early age, and I've written about 6 books. I say about because some of them are in Finnish, some of them are in English, but most of them are in English. I came to Catalyst in February 2021, and this was the community that really sucked me in because it was welcoming, but it was also challenging, and it was a place where you could grow and use your skills based on, or make your skills useful for others. So that's basically what I like doing. I like helping people, and whether you get paid for that or not, it doesn't matter so much. But I was positively surprised that you even get paid for that stuff here. So of course, incentives are nice. I proposed for the first time about a year ago, and that wasn't funded. So it took me about 1 year after that to gather my courage and become a funded proposer.
When was the first round that you got funded?
Right now, fund.
This is the first fund you got funded. Wow.
Yes.
See, so this is an example, like you're just even now inspiring me, right? My first try at Catalyst was in Fund 7. And, and it's like, okay, you've been engaging in the community, continuing to contribute, and a year later, you're getting funded for the first time. So I'm so excited and happy for you.
Well, it used to be like, if you are a proposer, you cannot be a community advisor. So I really got into the community advisor role immediately, and it sounded so fancy, and I was like, oh, that's a big responsibility. And I really wanted to be that. But then I also wanted to see what it is to propose. So I had to sacrifice one fund not to be a community advisor and be a proposer instead. And I'm really bad in tooting my own horn and like doing this marketing stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's good enough proposal. It will probably be voted in. And I did nothing. I didn't mention it to anyone. And of course it doesn't get voted. So I learned something from that. But then I decided after that I think it's better for me not to be a proposer right now, but actually help others through the community advisor role. And it was a good choice because then I tried every other role available. So I said yes to pretty much everything out there. And I even applied to IOG in the beginning for a few times. And then I was like, oh, fuck this shit. Oops, sorry. No. Yeah, I probably shouldn't curse so much in my application. Anyway, yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. There's many sides to me.
That's a great experience. So that's Catalyst is about to test and experience as much as you want, which is a great opportunity. As you said, like you've tried everything, that you are kind of involved in everything. And how is there something like what is your learning? Do you have more direction on what you want to do right now in the community, or how you're going to contribute forwards?
Yes, but I don't know if we should start with that. Like, there is this Catalyst GPS, the proposal that did get funded, and I would love to talk about that because it's a comprehensive framework that can help Catalyst in so many ways. But
yeah, well, we want to definitely have a whole roundtable discussion about that, and that'll kind of be like the bulk of what we talk about. But just so that you're not getting away too easy on that, we still want to know a little bit more about you. So where can we find your books? And I want to learn more about your Rich Without Money experience, like being on the road for 4 years, and how living without money has impacted your perspective on cryptocurrency, like, well, on life in general. So
yeah. Okay, so I've released all the books for free out there, so you can go to astikainen.wordpress.com and get them for free, except the last one that's in Amazon, the Crypto Curious. It was for free for a while also, but Amazon is Amazon anyway. So now if I'm looking back to 2010, it sounds like so long ago, and it is so long ago. So what I was doing before that lifestyle, I was a social entrepreneur in Finland, and I brought the idea of social entrepreneurship to Finland. No one was pretty much talking about it.
What does that mean? What is social entrepreneurship?
Still. Okay. So
give us your definition.
Yeah, so
you pioneer.
Social entrepreneurship is that you start a business that has some sort of social or environmental reason for existence or purpose. So companies that do generate money, but that money is channeled back to maximize the impact. So after that, like 5, 6, 10 years after that, they started talking about impact investing and whatnot, fancy word. But yeah, so before that, I was living in Sri Lanka and I was doing leadership training and strategic consultancy, and I was actually thinking that I will do the same stuff as an entrepreneur in Finland. But as I made my business plan and marketing materials and everything ready, and I came to Finland and I sat in the office for the first day and I looked at the business plan, I didn't like it. I just tossed it in the bin and I was like, I need to follow my heart and do something that scares me and something that might help other people more. And 1.5 years later, I was broke. It was 2008, and not the best time to start the business in a global recession. And creating a market that didn't exist, and trying to make it financially feasible and all that. But it was a great ride, and we had a really nice team. Very multicultural team. We had people from Kenya, Tanzania, Vietnam, Finland, Georgia, here and there. So that was fun. Didn't work. And through that experience, I learned this habit of asking why at least 5 times. So if you think you have reached a reason for something, you ask why again, and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And it seemed like a lot of these social and environmental problems that we have, they actually boil down to the money system that we have. And when I really started looking into how the fiat money system works, I was appalled and angry at first, because I was like, why didn't anyone teach me this at school? Like, I had 2 degrees, business degrees, and no one told me before. And I actually had to go back and check if this was mentioned in the economics 101 course at the university, and there it was on page 576. Half a page was about fiat money system, so it was there. So but yeah, so back then people didn't really know how money is created and how it comes to existence as debt, and what are the implications that there's always more debt in the circulation than there's money, and how that makes rich get richer and poor get poorer. So yeah, it was very annoying for me in the beginning that this is the way it is. And then after a while, I was like, I don't really want to be part of this. And that kind of spawned the idea that, hey, can I live without money? And it was actually like a ludicrous idea in the beginning. I still remember the day I told it to a friend of mine. We were having a few beers in the park, and I was like, I have this crazy idea. It's called naked monk. Like, think about it, like a monk who goes around and lives like very, like without anything, and naked meaning that it's not religious or spiritual or anything. It's just a monk without a robe. And that was like thing that I wanted to do, and I didn't know what it means and whatnot. And my friend was like, okay, what would that be? And I said, yeah, it would be like me not using money. And we were like laughing about it. And then 1 year later, I finally gathered enough courage to put it into practice. So that 1 year I was living pretty much homeless, like sleeping on friends' couches and trying to figure out what to do. And I also had time to write, so I wrote this Mind Your Elephant, which is a book about ego. And it didn't make my ego go away, but it made me realize that I have one, and maybe I'm a little bit more aware of my own limitations and how the ego guides your life. But then,
you know what, that's really interesting, because there's so many like thought leaders out there who talk about suppressing, you got to get rid of the ego and all this stuff. And it's like, the more that people talk about getting rid of the ego, the more you're focused on the ego. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? It's so interesting. So, but say the name of that book again, The Mindless Elephant.
That would be a better one, but it's Mind Your Elephant.
Mind Your Elephant.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has this fictional story of a woman called Unaware, and she meets this teacher, and the teacher starts talking in cryptic language, not Finnish, but like actually English, talking about elephants. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then the story goes on, and in comes crocodiles and birds and ants and whatnot, and all these play some sort of a role in that Anna's understanding and how it builds up. And the elephant talks about self, and the crocodile and the bird talk about collaboration, like relationships, and then the ants talk about like society, like how it could be.
Oh, that's cool.
So people really loved that, and I started getting a lot of good feedback, like random people posting me pictures of them printing it out and reading it on the beach or something. And that was pretty fun. And then I heard about this hitchhikers gathering in Portugal, and I had hitchhiked like once before in my life. And then I was like, wait, maybe I should now really gather my courage and go for it and try to go to Portugal without money. 4 years later.
How long was that journey? So from Finland to Portugal without money. So how many miles is that? Or how long of a journey?
I don't know, miles.
Kilometers.
A few thousand kilometers. And then I realized that this is not only doable, but this is actually quite easy. And of course, in the beginning, I was probably more worried, and I was thinking like, oh, how is this going to go? And I was looking for safety from things like couch surfing, which was a thing back then. But then the longer I stayed on the road, the less I started caring about where I'm going to end up. And that's where the actual fun started, when you had no plan, nowhere to go to, no schedules, no technology, no phones, no nothing. And you could just completely be in the moment and see what happens. And of course, there was a lot of frustration, and sometimes you had to walk for 20 kilometers and whatnot. But most of the time, it was pretty damn awesome. And it kept giving me a lot of teachings, and I found out many things about myself and other people and life that I don't get to experience in this hectic family man's life. But it came to a point.
What was your favorite memory from that?
Can't say that. It's so full of memories.
So many?
So full of memories. And you know, like when you get old like me, you start like coloring those memories.
Yes. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you, so go ahead. So you came to a point.
Yeah, it came to a point after 4 years that I realized that I'm not learning anything new anymore, and it's just repeating and repeating and repeating, and like there's no challenge anymore. So I realized that I have to stop this, and then it took me another year to come back to like ordinary life. So jumping into that life took me a year, and then jumping out of that life took me a year. So same way as I had been holding on to what was familiar to me before going to that life, I was then holding on to that life on the road, and I didn't want to let it go because it was so easy and something that I really knew how to do. So I think it was a really good decision to stop it. It was never a project. There was never supposed to be a start date and end date and plan. It was just trying to see how the world works and how people are in different parts of the world. And it became pretty obvious that the poorer the people are, the more generous they are, the more they trust the society, the more they trust each other rather than the society. And in Finland, for example, like it's almost like we've outsourced that trust to the government. So it's like, we pay all these taxes, so government will take care of us. So it's not like that in most parts of the world. But I learned that everyone is pretty much the same, like regardless of your background, your education, your profession, your life situation. Everyone has certain fears, certain needs, certain wants, certain dreams, and we are very, very similar. And it kind of it proved that I was right in the Mind Your Elephant when I was talking about the ants, that this kind of swarming intelligence would be possible one day, where we have a super organism called humankind, but we are still very far from that. and I feel that the money system still is a big roadblock for that, and the more people are how to put it, the tougher it gets for people, the less time they have to think about these things. So it's a privilege to be an anarchist. It's a privilege to be a world changer and even think about helping others, because most of the people in this world can only think like, how the fuck am I gonna survive today? So we have some work to do.
Wow, that's powerful. That was like a mic drop moment. And then just like a couple seconds to take it in. Yeah, that's amazing, Tomi. And it's interesting to think about what you said about the courage to get out of your comfort zone and how the transition takes so long, like a year in and a year out. Do you think, like sometimes, so we have the privilege of thinking about how to help, right? But even if there's help available, do you think that sometimes, no matter what level you're at, maybe you are here or you're here, whatever part of the matrix you're in, it's kind of like, even if there is the ability to do something different, it's hard to change your stripes because you're so comfortable where you're at. Yeah. Even if the help is there, even if there is change available, or tools or things like that, it's just like we're so stuck in what we know and the fear of going out and doing something different. We can make all these tools, we can do all this stuff, but if people are afraid of it, it's like.
So if we tie this to the world of crypto,
yes,
I knew about this kind of possibility of decentralized digital currencies very early, because in that social entrepreneurship career, we spun up idea contest for social innovations. And one of those social innovations was completely incomprehensible. Like, it was a guy, a friend of mine, who pretty much outlined something like Bitcoin. And I had no idea what he's talking about. I was like, are you mad? You want to change the entire economic or financial money system of the whole world? And this was before I understood any of these things.
And what year was this?
This was 2009, I think. So yeah, I keep jokingly saying that guy must be Satoshi.
Oh my God. You were sitting with Satoshi and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, I should give him a call. Anyway, so I got bothered by this idea very early, but I didn't understand it back then. Then second time it really was rubbed on my face was that I was part of starting this thing called the Zeitgeist movement in Finland. And that was a social movement for a moneyless future, where there would be something called a resource-based economy. So we let science and technology improve everyone's life, and we make sure that it's not just the technology that works, but also the people's mindset and values change so that we can have a more sustainable future. And I was really into that. And then after some time of trying to lobby for this moneyless future, through this social movement, it became pretty obvious that I need to do something. So that was one of the drivers why I wanted to try that moneyless life myself. And others, they took very different routes. And there was one friend of mine who then went into the Bitcoin world and became one of the early trendsetters in Finland in that area. And he even gave me one of these Bitcoins, and he was like, you can ask for these for your writing. And I was like, no, but I want to give my writing for free. And I don't know what happened to that one Bitcoin. It got lost somewhere.
Oh man.
That's okay.
And Philly put in the chat the Venus project. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah. So that was the sister project of the Zeitgeist movement, and then they actually started clashing at some point after I had already left. So those two projects, they couldn't live with one another, and I don't know what's up with that movement today. I think it still might exist, but you don't really hear about it. Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into crypto? So when was your first, so you were given a Bitcoin, but after that, so you're learning about it, you heard about it, when was your first?
I was
when did you first buy?
I was actively resisting it because I didn't want to be part of a system that you can buy into with fiat money. Because I saw that if you have all these issues with the fiat-based economy, you probably are going to have the same issues in that other economy if you can use this debt-based money to hoard whatever amounts of whatever currency in this new economy. And that's actually, it still stands. It still looks like we are just going to replicate the same mistakes that we have done in the old economy, in this so-called new economy. And I think that's something we need to fix if we want this to work. I don't know how, but so I didn't want to be part of that. And even when I learned about Ethereum during my travels, well, I couldn't be part of that even if I wanted to, because I didn't have money. but I learned about Ethereum in the very early stage. I had no idea what it means. I was like, okay, that's a very disturbing idea. I didn't understand the tech part of it at all, and I was like, let them do that. I'm not going to be part of it. But then 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago, I got into these conversations again because a friend of mine was writing a book about Bitcoin for many years, and he didn't seem to get the book out. So then eventually I asked him, can I help him? And I started helping him. And then eventually he asked me to join and write the book together. And then we did. And that took me on a ride of 9 months of writing and learning and writing and learning every day. And it was a very expensive book to write. Because I had to make all those mistakes to be able to write about it.
And that wasn't Crypto Curious, or was that Crypto Curious?
Yes, that was Crypto Curious.
Okay.
So I actually started like in 2020 October or something.
Okay. So that was when you started, and then your book, Crypto Curious, was released last winter, right?
November last year, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know. I bought a couple up and gave them away for Christmas presents that year. Everyone's like,
And you still haven't read it.
well, because I keep giving my copies away.
That's the best feedback. That's the best
People keep-
feedback.
I was like, I keep giving my copies away, and then I'm like, I have to buy another one. So yes, I haven't read it all the way through because I haven't had a chance to have it in my hands for that long.
Yeah.
So how would you say this whole experience has changed you? And then the crypto side of it. So you're in it now, you're involved in Catalyst, you've been a part of all this stuff. Like,
well,
now what's your perspective on crypto?
Unfortunate reality is that when you learn about it, you cannot unlearn it. So even if I wanted to get out of it, I probably couldn't, because I would still know that it exists. And most likely, I don't know, maybe 99% of all those tokens are complete and other complete bullshit. It's really a ripe breeding ground for all sorts of scams and whatnot, and all these stupid meme coins, and I couldn't care less of them. Even Bitcoin, I don't really subscribe to it. I don't own any Bitcoin. I don't own any proof of work. Well, actually, I do have some Ergo, I think. But apart from that, I don't own any proof of work stuff, because I feel it's a bit outdated. And I don't want to be part of some Bitcoin maximalist group who just keep hoarding and hoarding more and more and more Bitcoin and doing nothing with it. So what inspires me are the third generation blockchains that really try to provide new kind of tools for human collaboration to do something that has been never done before, or to do the things that we have done before in a very different way. And I mostly focused on Polkadot-Kusama, like Dotsama ecosystem. I'm a senior ambassador in Akala and Karura, but I'm also a little bit invested in many other parachains. And I really love the Dotsama ecosystem because they're the layer 0, the Kusama or Polkadot relay chain itself. It's very, very, very minimalistic, and it's very, very, very sleek. So it offers nothing but the communication between the parachains and the shared security. And that's really, really awesome, because then these other layer 1s that are built on top of it or on the side of it, they don't need to go through the trouble of running all that security by themselves. It's almost like ideally in the traditional economy, I would love to have something like that for companies. I just thought about it now, so this is very raw. But like, let's say that you are an artist and you like to create, and then you want to find a way to distribute your creations to others. So you probably don't want to spend time on accounting or sales or this and that. You want to focus on what you're really good at, and then let others handle everything else. So that's what I found really interesting in the crypto, that even more than in any startup scene, people are more willing to collaborate, because and especially in Dotsama ecosystem, because they know that they should focus on what they are really, really, really good at, and then plug into these partners that can do everything else. And together they can synergize and create things that didn't exist before, and new constellations, new kind of partnerships, and that's really awesome. So I think we can, in Cardano, we can also learn a lot from there. Why I'm very into Cardano is that when my daughter was born, I was looking into investing for the first time seriously. Like I probably should have started like 20 years ago to to like have any reasonable investor's career for myself, but better late than never, I guess. So she's investing in stocks, or her daddy is helping her to invest in stocks in a long run. And I'm trying to keep her away from crypto for now. It's too risky. But when I started looking into traditional investing, and I had this world changer mentality that, yeah, I would like to support African entrepreneurs, for example, and I would like to help somehow with even have the feeling of helping. Like maybe with my tiny amount of money, I cannot really have an impact, but at least I would like to feel good about what I'm doing. Very selfish. But when I looked into the traditional investing instruments, there was nothing beyond South Africa and Egypt and maybe Morocco and maybe Kenya on a long shot. But the rest of Africa, there was nothing. I was like, this is interesting. This is not good, because Africa is the continent that's going to make or break the entire next leg of human development. So if African continent can leapfrog to the more sustainable future, then that's really good for everyone. And it's a young population that's tripling in size, and they're getting into, through the mobile technology and whatever, they're getting to internet and getting all sorts of new opportunities. So better do that sustainably. And I was really appalled that there was nothing like this in the traditional investing. So when I heard about Cardano, and I was like, oh wow, they're actually doing this already, I was sold. I was like, okay, most of those things, whether it's Empower or World Mobile or whatever, most of them will probably fail, because it's really hard to be successful in these things. But I want to be part of the journey. And yeah, let's see. In those projects, World Mobile, Empower, whatnot, maybe Wire Collective, they are for me like 5 to 10 years down the line. Then let's see what has happened. So I'm not concerned what is the price of WMT today, or what is the price of EMP tomorrow. And yeah, so most of the, like, I think even guys like Vitalik Buterin from Ethereum are starting to be like really annoyed by the fact that all the years of hard work, what's coming out of it is like a bunch of fucking monkeys on JPEG. It's like, yeah, maybe we could use this effort to something else.
Oh, that's amazing, Tomi. I love hearing you speak about, it's almost like beautiful philosophical, just with your experience and the way that you think about everything. I love that.
At the same time, if you want to, like, if someone is looking at this and like thinks of starting to be a crypto investor, you need to understand that it's a very young market. It's constantly being manipulated by so-called whales, because it's so easy to do that, because it's a young and small market. Like, you take one rich guy and he puts some money in and number go up. He takes the money out, number go down. So it's very risky, and it's very stressful if you're in the day-to-day haze of looking at the charts. And I'm guilty of that, because it's so captivating, and especially all these apps that they build and all that, like, they are made so that it's what's the word?
Addictive?
Is
Yeah,
that
it's
trading? Do you mean
yeah,
trading?
yeah, trading apps and all this. It's like pushing you to like press those colorful buttons and and
So enticing.
Yeah, trading is very similar to gambling.
Yeah, and it's not a coincidence that the apps look like that, like all these different colors they use and whatnot. They are smart people who have developed them. So you need to be very careful.
So with everything that you've shared and your experience, and how I want to get into the GPS conversation now, because we talked about like what the ecosystem is looking like, and it's, turning into a lot of PFPs. I mean, there's a lot of people in our community, making a lot of money off of PFPs. But being able to, as it turns from a small community into a bigger community, like you said, not just repeating the past, repeating history is going to take a lot of effort and self-awareness. So I know that your proposal that got funded in Fund 8, that GPS system, how do you want to start talking about, or like opening up for ideas of what you need, or what are the next steps in you getting funded, or now that you've received the approval and that you're getting funded?
Yeah, I will share my screen and show some of the things so it's easier to talk about them. But just before that, a bit of background, because it became quite obvious being a year in this mess that even small things like having a landing page, it takes a lot of time and effort and discussion. And it seemed like we are very good in discussing things. And then we discuss some more, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and nothing ever happens. If something happens, we make a proposal out of it. And what do we make the proposal for? We make it to an arbitrary challenge that someone somewhere set, which might not be there in 3 months' time because someone forgot to resubmit it, or someone just felt like doing something else. So it's very, very scattered out there. There's no strategic direction as such. We are hearing certain things from IOG, and we are talking about some things ourselves, and certain themes appear from ground up, and some things are valued higher than others. And we might even having these discussions like, we should do this, we should do that, we should do that. But we have no mandate to drive that change. So even if you want to change something, even if you are fully motivated to drive something for betterment of Catalyst, there's really no way to do that.
So why do you think is that way? Why do you think people don't act?
It's not about not acting. I think if we could,
it's a lack of structure, lack of process, lack of common understanding of where we should be headed, where we are, and how do we get there. And that's exactly what Catalyst GPS is about. It's a framework for collaborative strategy making, which means that whether these ideas come from lurkers who've just joined a month ago, or whether these come from Charles Hoskinson or whoever, we can use the same framework to try to understand how do these different things fit together. So if you allow me, I will share my screen. That's like, if you allow me Zoom. Can you see? Yeah, I'll try not to bore you with details, and I'll run through most of it quite quickly, but there's a couple of slides where I want to stop and talk a bit more, and then maybe get your perspectives also, because this is not ready. This is right now like we got funded, or we have not been we have not got the funding yet, but we got the green light last week. So this is the first week that we are really pushing this forward out in the open. And we're taking an approach where we let the community drive it, try different things, see how it works, and then we kind of learn and improve the model as we go. So the people I'm doing this with are Nadia and Ondra, and they are both seasoned business professionals, and we have a lot of fun together. We have our Monday meetings, and then we try to coordinate it through those. And then this initial proposal is for a few months, but the directions that this takes later, no one knows yet. But I have a feeling that this will be very beneficial for many people to make things more meaningful and propose things that make sense and that are aligned with the commonly agreed on strategy when that time comes. So when we start talking about these things, it's good to clarify some terminology. When we talk about identity, I don't like talking about mission and vision because those are very misleading or ambiguous terms. And I rather talk about purpose and dream and values. So values are the guidelines that it's not something that we just come up with, but it's something that we observe in the community, that these are the things that we are really good at, and these are the foundational things that we should cherish and build on. This is the culture part that I wanted to aim for with the Catalyst culture proposal, the challenge setting proposal, but unfortunately that was not funded. The purpose and dream are the mission and vision. So what the purpose is, obviously, why do we exist? And then dream is, where do we want to go? Then one of the key things that George was working for, like George Lovegrove Pace, is this core categories idea. And I really love the fact that he tried to bring this common lingo that could help us focus on certain things. And I realized that they are very close to this idea of balanced scorecard and strategy maps from the business life. So instead of talking about financial perspective and customer perspective and those things, I took George's work, analyzed that, took the balanced scorecard methodology and married these two, and then started testing it out. How does this look like? How would this work in Catalyst? So these four perspectives are people and culture, systems and processes, products and services, and outreach and impact. We'll get back to these soon. Then at some point we should sit down as a community and say that, okay, for the next few years at least, we should focus on these strategic themes. And an example that I like giving is apparent. It's Africa. I already talked about why Africa matters and all that, but it also seems that it matters for Cardano. So that would be an example of a theme. Then objectives is something that we currently call challenges. Challenges are at the moment like out there for 3 months, some a bit longer. Challenges are measurable, or they're supposed to be, but they are not very helpful in the long run. So maybe we can shift the thinking from challenges to objectives in time to come. We'll come back to that soon. Oh, and I have a typo there. So the people who can make this happen are on different levels. And if we look at the numbers under these, the number of roles under representatives, this is basically what we currently have in the circle. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever people who are supposed to oversee things and sense the community and take things to the somewhat common direction. So we might be able to do that a bit more strategically. And then these different objectives could have stewards. So right now we have challenge teams, so the same way we can have teams around them, but they could also have like people who are the main responsible for objective. And then whatever initiatives we have under those objectives have champions. And this is where we are starting right now. We have a couple of different initiatives that are coming from the community. And Nadia has been integral in that. She senses these things that come from the community, and she gets people to talk about them and provides them tools like this T-work to start building on something that is really popping from the grassroots. And if we can try this at the same time as we are giving this overall strategic framework, then we have both the bottom up and the top down at the same time. And I hope that one day we are living in an environment where this top down and bottom up are meaningless because everything just happens. But we have a long way until then. So if we look at these core functions, I think today I would really like to focus on people and culture, because unknowingly it was Dana who gave this idea. I have a tendency of watching all these discussions. I can't be part of all of the discussions in real time, but I do watch the recordings. And in one discussion, Dana mentioned that why don't we gather together some HR professionals and pick their brain and try to understand, like, how do they do things in real life and learn from them and whatnot. And I was like, that is very wise. We should do that. And then I started thinking, like, okay, what are these things that people and culture or human resources professionals have to deal with? So they are recruitment and onboarding, incentives, the experience the employees or the members go through, values, culture, competence development, well-being, celebrations, leadership development, participation and engagement, and diversity and inclusion. So a lot of things to focus on, but these things are something that are more appealing to a certain type of people. Whereas we have, for example, products and services, where we have things like libraries and SDKs and dApps and this and that, which I know almost nothing about. But these are something that are very appealing to other types of people. So what we've had so far is this mismatch between the governance people and the developers. I don't know if it's real or if it's imagined, but one of the reasons is that we don't have a common framework where all of these would be on the same page. So that's why we have Catalyst GPS. Here are everything on this slide is examples, so don't take it as a truth. It's just something that it could be. Up there, you can see the different core functions that were mentioned. And on the left side, you see examples of strategic themes. On the right side, you see the dream. And in the bottom, you see the values and the purpose, which are not set, they're just examples. And then these interconnected things in the middle these are objectives. And within these objectives, for example, inside of hubs, you would have then different initiatives or proposals, as we call them. So if we talk about initiatives, that could be like rapid funded without having to wait for the next fund. Yeah, we can have those. And then we could have proposals as they are at the moment. And instead of tied to a challenge, maybe they could be tied to an objective. So I leave it.
I really that's like that's like having a hybrid model too, because I actually was doing some research just recently, and a lot of people think that Catalyst is the only funding mechanism out there for blockchains, and that's not true. Almost every blockchain has a treasury, and they are awarding funds to people. They're not doing it in a government system like this. They're doing it rapid funding. So if there is a way to still do this experiment, but then also have those rapid funding mechanisms, then that would be amazing.
Yeah. So we are like 1% there. So it's very early. But if we start this now, what we are aiming at this summer, like, well, globally summer is different, but Finnish summer, for the next few months, what we are aiming at is spreading the understanding of this model, asking for feedback, asking for insights, asking for improvement suggestions, and then training at least 20 people to become strategic leaders who can take things forward. And through these conversations, we can then create other GPS proposals for next fund, for example, where these teams then take the lead and start pushing forward with different things. And one of the things would be, for example, rethinking the challenge setting into objective setting. That's one thing that has to happen. And anyone who likes that idea, they can run with it. And there's already people who are getting organized around that idea. And then, of course, if we talk about roles in Catalyst, we need to ask, what is community advisor? Is it needed? What is a VCA? Is it needed? What's a DREP? No one knows. So how do these different roles would fit this kind of structure? And if we have this kind of strategic framework, what kind of roles are actually needed? So there are some people who have been saying for a long time now that community advisors, as we know it, are nothing but proposal assessors. And I agree. When I heard the words community advisor, I took it really seriously, and I was like, let's go and advise. But then I realized that 98% of that work is not incentivized. So it's actually just a couple of weeks during 3-month period that is incentivized. And I don't think that's the best use of our time and resources.
No, that's amazing. So is this, are you opening it up for discussion now? Or because I'm seeing that there's lots of people contributing in the chat, and I just wanted to bring up some of the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It is, so Shira was like, what is the challenge versus objective setting? Curious as to the difference. And I mean, I'll just take a stab at this, Tomi, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but there isn't much. But here's one thing that I see as an issue that can probably be refined a little bit more in this community is our terminology for things are not understandable to the layperson. And we have a lot of words that sound really cool, and phrases that have all these big words, but nobody understands what they mean. And you have to do a bunch of research in order for it to be like, to get it. And I think in the tradition, in the legacy world, like when somebody sees the world objective, I don't know, to me, it just, that's how the world out there works. So I don't know, it makes that makes more sense to me, but I think they're the same.
Yeah, I don't think challenge and objective are the same. Challenge is something like, I've done a lot of innovation management, and I used to be a CEO of inventors association in Finland also for a while. And there I got to familiarize myself with all these different innovation platforms. And the challenge terminology comes from there. Normally, it's some company or some instance somewhere who sets a challenge and says, propose solutions for this. And that's pretty much what we have been running with. The only difference is that it's not some external instance that poses these challenges, but it's actually coming from the community. And I think that's how it should be. And it's really amazing that that's the strength of the challenge setting. But as you said, people, especially like people who come from the corporate world, they're more familiar with this terminology because they've been using it in their own companies or whatnot. So if we think of an objective, it's a measurable statement, which in this model is in the crossroads of a strategic theme and a perspective or a core function. So the idea why it's like that is that if we only, or if we didn't have these perspectives, if we only had the themes, then we might end up with 16 different objectives that are all about products and services. And that doesn't give us a holistic strategy. Neither would it work if we just had people and culture. So we need to have these different perspectives in place. So here is just random example of a title, a description, the measures, and then initiatives that belong into this particular objective, and then the champions who are driving those. So likewise, as the objective has someone who is responsible for that, each initiative would have someone who is responsible for that. Only the time perspective is different. So for an objective, to reach an objective, it might take a year. An initiative might be done in 3 weeks.
So that was an answer to a question. It says, how are things getting funded? How did they decide who funds? I think that was in relation to the rapid funding mechanism. So would be.
So rapid funding mechanism is something that we have been throwing around in Catalyst for a few funds now. There has been challenges around that, and people have been suggesting different mechanisms for that with varying degrees of success. But there are some successes. For example, the community advisors, they now have, was it 30,000 or something to use for initiatives that come from the community, and then those can be incentivized even retroactively based on whatever needs there are. So their initiatives would be like shorter, quicker, that need funding right now. That we like we have had some proposals in Catalyst where it was like, I need $478 to cover for my laptop. So sometimes it's justified to pay for that laptop, but you shouldn't use 3 months for the funding process.
Got it. So it's like something that's set up that has standards to being able to access those funds. So it's not just, because one of the concerns in the comment was rapid funding is good, but I wasn't impressed with the decision making behind being so limited to like 5 people in the umbrella organization. So if there was something set where it was already like, okay, this is, within certain timeframes, this money can be awarded for these things up until the point where we run out of money for that time frame until the next time frame comes out or something like that. Because yeah, you're right. It shouldn't take 3 months for, and obviously we don't have to do things exactly the way that everyone else does it. but I think that there is a way to be able to help somebody to get the things that they need to do the work without having to spend 3 months in a proposal.
Like another example is currently the circle, they have 7,000, I think, each to spend for whatever they feel is right, and whatever was proposed in Fund 6 or something, can't remember. So they can use that money to actually incentivize people to help them in their work. So that's another example.
Got it. Oh, I didn't even know that. How long has that been a thing? Has that been just for this fund?
That was just one proposal that was proposed and it was voted in, and that's why they have that money. And now actually circle functions were not funded, so I don't know what's the future of the circle. But even that, maybe the circle could find some inspiration from this, and rather than getting organized based on the different stakeholder groups, they could get organized based on what we actually do.
No, I do like it, because like you said, from challenge to challenge, it's just willy-nilly. What people's attentions are on at the moment is what gets funded. So it's kind of like having those top tier, what is our dreams, our purpose, and then focused on funding within that to keep the main thing, so that we're just not all over the place. I think it's good. Megan says it's a screen share from Tommy's computer. Oh, somebody asked if this is a proposal, where is the link? Do you have a link to this document that you can share?
Yes.
Hey guys and gals, is this related to a proposal?
Yes, it's one that got funded. It's called Catalyst GPS, and they're they just got funded, and now the researching and the data and the idea sharing starts, as far as all the work is starting as to how to put the structures together in order to help Catalyst or collaboration happen in a way that is actionable and things actually get done.
Yeah, Tommy, I love the rapid funding idea, as well as collaboration and the peer-to-peer mentorship, all of that. We should connect actually with the quadratic voting and funding that also got funded, and thank you all for that voted, and the mentor and mentee bounties. I think we share a lot of things in common. I'm glad that I was able to join and listen to some of your ideas.
Yeah, it really feels like, well, obviously we haven't just pulled this out of our ass, but we've listened to the community and we've seen like what's happening. So many of the other funded proposals out there, they share the same mentality, and I think it's time to become a little bit more independent from IOG, and that means that we need a common roadmap. And when we started doing this, I was calling it map for a while, but then Nadia was like, let's call it something more funky like GPS, and that actually stuck. So it's about giving us the bearings, where we are and where should we head to. And it's a very fluid model that can incorporate many others, so we can definitely collaborate.
When I read the title first, I thought you guys were actually building a GPS on blockchain.
There was another proposal. I don't know if they got funded. I hope they did. There was something about beams and GPS and so.
Right. Yep.
That's cool. So Tommy, the floor is yours. What do you want to know? Like what questions do you have that you would like maybe some feedback or ideas on?
Well, let's open it for anyone. So whatever, not just this, but whatever we've been talking during the past, 1.5 hours. How long has it been?
Yeah, almost. Well, we started a little late. When did we start? 11:18.
So during the past 1 hour, whatever we've been talking about. So if you have some questions or ideas or comments, just shoot.
Anybody have any comments for Tomi's life experience sharing?
I have that for days, but I don't know if you want me to share that now.
Share.
No, I'm just saying, like, I definitely have to like digest. This is all new to me. I'm trying to read this Lido Nation website, and I do want to just reiterate that I agree with you, since I'm like so, new to Catalyst, that there's just, and this is not even just Catalyst. I think whenever there's like a new like, I don't know, industry, all that, like people just love to get jargon heavy. And I'm like, okay, entering that world again. So it definitely is, for people who are new, it's just recalibrating to all the jargon and stuff like that, and hopping on board. So I've been helping with out with Catalyst School, and that's been interesting. That's been fun. But I do appreciate, because I feel like Tevo's trying to like break through all of the jargon to try to really kind of simplify things. So anyway, so I have to, that's all I can say now, that I just wanted to like double up with what you said on that.
No, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing. And it's
Yeah.
nice to meet you and see your face too. Thanks for popping in.
And we might need to have some sort of jargon, but we just need to make sure that terminology is understood by everyone and everyone is using the same terminology.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. And I actually, Lido, I was in a space with him, when was that, 2 nights ago, and on Twitter, and he was like, he just threw it out there, not saying that, he was like, what would you guys think if I, ran for a circle rep position? And I said, you know what, all this stuff is so new. I said, you can make up your own position. I was like, you know what I'd like to see that's not there right now? There needs to be something that is wrangling all the education and all the tool stuff. You have Swarm, you have school, you have people on YouTube doing their own thing. You have this person over here making their own stuff. You know what I mean? And it's just like, where is all of these things? And I was like, I was like, I would love to see an educational circle rep that's managing herding all the cats and helping to streamline the stuff in the thing. And like you said, it has to be the right terminology, because at the end of the day, listen, we have a lot of intelligent people in our community. And what you were saying earlier, and Shira, Tomi just gave not his testimony, but he just shared his journey. He lived without money for 4 years, traveling from, Finland to Portugal, and his experience of this moneyless, and just how it led into crypto and everything. And I think that, and he also wrote a book about ego. And I think that when we get into these new innovation spaces or innovation industries, the very intelligent people like to sound very intelligent. And so, but that's kind of, it puts up a roadblock to mass adoption when no one knows what you're talking about. Yes, it makes sense. Even the definition of catalyst circle. No, like I consider myself, but even me, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I have to sit there and like think about each word, you know what I mean? So definitely having a mechanism to streamline the words, to get it all together, to get all the people who are making, tools available on the same page, or working together with each other, so that we're not working in silos.
Yes, I'm just going to say agreed. I literally was having that conversation in terms of Catalyst School, being like, can we just like link out? Because there's so much stuff, can there just be links to all this stuff that there already is? No need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much documentation. It's just that finding it, like a lot of times I find things and I can't even remember how I found it. I'm like, oh, there was that thing. Where did I find that? And like, I was like, is there like some kind of link tree? Like, there's just so much information. Like, I can never remember how I found out the information. And it's like, and you're right, like so much of the language doesn't link up. Like fundamentally, if you're bringing somebody new into Catalyst, they got to understand idea scale. And like everybody uses the word proposal except idea skill. So it's like, it's literally like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
That's awesome feedback.
I remember 3 or 4 months ago, first time I joined the town hall, I was like, wow, there are breakout rooms and Cardano women, there's bunch, there were so many, and people are pinging like and putting different links in the chat, like Telegram, Discord. Like, oh my God, I thought there's only one and there's like 10 and 20. Even now I'm adding new Discord and Telegram channels that relate to Cardano and Catalyst. And it never sleeps. Like at some point, Twitter Spaces became a thing, right? So I did that. So whenever I wake up, Twitter is what I open. I haven't used, like, I've been using Twitter for such a long time. I have stopped for a couple of years, and now I'm back because of the community. But yeah, there's a ton of jargon, not just like Catalyst specific, but Cardano and blockchain specific. For our engineering team, they're like, I can't remember, but something about UTXOs just being unique identifiers, right? Like in others, like they already know what to do. Just the jargon is so unique and so different. They think, oh, okay, I have no idea what people are talking about. I have no idea how to implement it. I was like, no, chill out. This is what it actually means. You already know this.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And something that you just said about all the different communication ways to communicate, there's Telegram, there's Discord, there's Twitter, there's all this stuff. And being able to manage all the different ways to communicate and what's on where and who's on where, and am I doubling my energies unnecessarily in places, and being able to understand that, like, hey, this is what burnout looks like. How do we manage the burnout? I was reading an article last week while I was home visiting family from Michigan, and it was talking about, the Great Resignation, right? How more than ever, there's more jobs out there than ever before, but people are not there. And there was 4 or 5 things that was stopping people from going into certain companies. And one of them was innovation. And that shocked me, because usually you hear innovation, oh, it's exciting. Oh, it's, you know what I mean? This is the companies with the most turnover. A lot of them are the ones that have the highest innovation rate, because people are burning out their work. Because in innovation, it's exciting, but in order to do the bigger and better and faster and whatever, you're doing things that have never been done before. You are working around the clock. You're burning the candle at both ends. And that's one of the things that people are like, I don't want to work in an innovation anymore, because, I want to go somewhere where I know, like, what my day-to-day is going to be like. I need a break. Like, I want to raise a family or whatever it is. The pandemic really put everyone's priorities in order. Do I want to kill myself for the next 20 years for innovation, or do I want to be happy? You know what I mean? Like that's what this article was talking about. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. So being able to have what is healthy community engagement look like? Because on a startup level, you're always going to hear, you're starting up a business, you're going to be working 24/7, you're going to be up till 4 a.m, you're going to whatever. And it's like, okay. And there's going to be some of those days, but in order to sustain a community that has the same type of culture that, you know what I mean? So that we're not rotating through a revolving door, and you have to get more people. And that's where culture is in danger, is when people are burning out and leaving. And then you have the people that were so, even Tomi, so you've been here since Fund 3. How has the culture changed in your eyes from Fund 3 to now? Have you seen a shift?
Well, first of all, that's a really interesting perspective. Like the more you innovate, the more people leave. I never thought of it like that. But I think another part of that is unclear roles. And especially in Catalyst, I felt it myself because I wanted to try different roles to see what they are about and to be able to give my perspective for these different roles. But when you are a voter, you're a proposer, you're a CA, you're a VCA, you're a challenge team member, you're all of this at once, and you have a day job, and you are supposed to be a dad, and you're supposed to be all these other roles in your life, it gets to you. So one of the reasons with this Catalyst GPS is for let people to step into a position of leadership for a few weeks or for a year or whatever, certain time, and let them focus on what they're really good at. So these things about onboarding and education, whatnot. So there should be a team that focuses only on people and culture. And then there should be people like what Nadia and Marcy and them are doing at the moment is mostly about systems and processes. And then there's the products and services. And then there's the outreach and impact, like what Dumpling is doing, for example, really well. So people should be able to play on their strengths. And if we get to that point that we have more people doing things that they love, contributing what they're really good at, and it's all tied together, then you can start having this flywheel of increasing impact. And remember, I was talking about social enterprises and investing back into the company to have a bigger impact. I think that's what we should be aiming at.
That's amazing.
Without compromising like people's well-being.
Shira just wrote a comment. I love what you just said, Tomi. I think if you start your presentation with what you just said, people will totally get it.
I forgot what I said. But I'll watch the recording.
It's in a recorded tape, so you'll be able to go back and listen to the tape. Hi, Matthias.
Hi.
So we just had an interview with Tomi. He gave us his life journey. He told us about his journey into crypto, his journey authoring 6 books. He lived without money for 4 years, traveled from Finland to Portugal with no money. And, you know, that obviously will change a person's life. And now we're talking about people and culture in Catalyst. He had a funded proposal, the Catalyst GPS, that he co-proposed with Nadia. And how do you say your other proposer's name?
Ondra.
And it's all about helping, put some structures in place so that when we're trying to be a part of this community, it's actually actionable. And
that's so nice. Whenever someone joins, you give a recap.
Well, yeah, just a little bit so that people know what we're talking about here.
Nice. Juliana, you have a question?
That's a respect for everyone that comes to the room.
That's super nice.
That's what you get here at the women's breakout session. Get respect.
RESPECT.
I just something I just wonder, like, so when you say let's so everyone should focus on what they are good at, right? And so I understand this concept, but I'm at this point that what if I'm good at many things or not good at anything? Because if you're a business owner, you're kind of good at or not good in many different things that you ended in the question like, okay, I do marketing, technology, finance, sales, and basically like social entrepreneurs like at whole, they're good at many different skills in order to build that kind of thing. So what is their role? If that makes sense.
I just think not everyone can be a CEO. I've been in startups where it's like the whole executive team, each one thinks that they're the CEO. And I'm like, the inmates are running the asylum right now. Like there's got to be some sort of roles going on here, you know, like there's got to be some sort of structure, even though people are good at a lot of things. I mean, sorry, Tomi, I just kind of like came in here, but what I think is really interesting about the GPS system and an opportunity is that if I'm good at a lot of things, then, you know, I can put my hand, like you said, some of the roles are a week, some of the roles are a month, some of the roles are a year, or whatever they're going to look like. So I put my expertise in a certain thing. If I can have focus for something for a specific amount of time, I was like, oh yeah, I contributed, that was really good, I can decide to stay, or I can go try my hand at then something else and move on. Instead of I'm in here and now everybody wants me to do everything, I at least can have like my brain focused on a specific thing at once. And then also the opportunity, Juliana, for mentorship within this framework. Like you have somebody that's maybe not good at something, but they want to be. So now you can almost have like junior or you know, mentees that are shadowing people while they're doing their work in a focused area so that you can build up your skill set in some place that you're weak. You know what I mean? So, but if we don't have a framework where everybody's just doing everything and we're all recreating the wheel all the time because we're all good at it. You know what I mean? It's just like, there needs to be some sort of flow to things, and a way to understand if there's a problem, where do I go? How do I get it solved? What do I, you know, because right now what I hear is like things may break. And if you see an issue, like be a part of the solution. Well, the people who are involved in this community see it. I mean, you can have a lot of people seeing the problems, but not everyone has the time to solve every problem. You know what I mean? So I don't know if any of that makes sense. Tomi, go ahead. She asked the question to you, but
I actually had to start taking notes because I would otherwise forget what I wanted to reply, because you both raised so many good topics there. One of the earlier discussions we had with Juliana was that we are the product of Project Catalyst, and we should never forget that. So it might be that Matthias leaves after 3 months and it's like, okay, I'm done with this. But then he takes away some connections, he takes away some new skills, he takes away some perspectives, and maybe one day he can come back. But he doesn't have to be married to Catalyst, but Catalyst is helping him to become a better person. And we often forget this when we are trying to create something, build the next cool dApp. We forget that we are here for selfish reasons, for friendship, for community, for belonging, and for developing ourselves. If you're really good at many things, yeah, you can do that selectively in Catalyst, and you can chip in and chime in many conversations and in many roles. And I think that's a good thing, as long as you are doing it sustainably and you're not getting burned out. I realized after being a CEO twice that maybe I should try a third time and not give in, but I haven't been very successful as a CEO. And I'm not saying that I'm not a good CEO. I'm just saying that I haven't succeeded as a CEO. But when I was hitchhiking, I was in Turkey, going to near the Black Sea. By the way, I've been close to where Juliana is from. We were talking about Karadere earlier, but this is the other side of Black Sea. I had just had a really weird ride, and I don't want to talk about that. I was walking on this country road alone, and suddenly it just dawned to me 3 words: kickstarting, connecting, and storytelling. And I was like, whoa, those are my strengths. And ever since that, I always remembered them, and it just keeps coming back to me. And now I've even had, like, people are told to make a CV that fits on 1 page, my CV is 11 pages and the front page only says those 3 words: kickstarting, connecting, and storytelling. And I realized that I need to focus on those strengths because that's what I'm really good at. And if I do focus on those strengths, then I can be most of service to others. And I think that's exactly what we need to figure out in this life. Like, how can I help others the most? Sometimes we don't know what we are good at. So I just want to briefly mention a person who helped me to become an author later in life. My Finnish teacher, actually, who was in junior high, I met her on a train years after, well, a few years after I had left that school. And we got to talking, and when she heard that I write, like just for myself, she asked, "Can I read your stuff?" And I panicked. I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? I've never shown it to anyone." Like, I had a bunch of poems and lyrics and some short stories and whatnot, and she wanted to read it. And I was like, "Well, I don't know if it's good enough for you to read." And she's like, "Send it over." And that was way back before internet. So I actually went home and I printed out all of my writings, and it was a thick bunch of paper, and I put it in an envelope, and I wrote her address on the top and licked it close and mailed it and started waiting. And I waited for a month, and I waited for 5 weeks, and I waited for 6 weeks, and I was like, she's never gonna reply. And I kind of started forgetting about it. After 2 months, I received the same envelope back. She's gone through everything and marked with red pen, like all the mistakes and suggestions for how to say this better and whatnot. And she was coaching me from the distance in the snail mail type of way. And I couldn't believe it that someone has spent 2 months looking at my stuff and correcting everything and giving advice as much as she can. That was such a gift. I've never received, well, I have received many gifts after that, but until that point, I had never received such a gift from another person. So this just goes to show the power of mentorship and coaching that Juliana is focusing on. And it's very important that we take those times to recognize what people might be good at, and then checking if they are good at it, and then encouraging them on that journey.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And as you said, I think very many people don't know what they're good at. So you might be thinking that you're good at something because, for example, you graduated something or whatever kind of direction, you didn't have the courage to leave that and change something different, and you think you're good at something. But only by having the courage to discover some stuff, or like as having the community or whatever it is to discover, you might figure out that you're good in different stuff. And then you come to a point, okay, so what I'm good at. And so you had that kind of like a realization of yourself, but you do a lot of self-development and you write a lot. And I believe that is one of the reasons why you come up with that kind of understanding of yourself. And what is the most essential thing is to help people to focus on themselves instead of the society, the community, because everyone is trying to change something or someone else. How many people are trying to change themselves? I personally do try very, very hard. I'm extremely self-disciplined person, and it's still so hard to change yourself. It's and it is the most important thing. But you do that, like you're writing, and writing is one of these tools that makes you be self-aware.
Yeah.
But most people, so it is difficult to figure out what you are good at if you are not very self-aware, and it is normal because nobody teaches you. And if nobody has teach you about that, how do you know to do it?
I'm sorry, I have to. Can I? Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. Yeah, so self-reflection is one thing, and then working in a team is another thing. So if you are asking other people to give you feedback, then they can increase your self-understanding?
I'm going to add one thing. So there's like conferences that I've been to where there's like a board that's called an offering board. And then there's like,
Need some words.
am I muted? Oh, sorry. It's like offering and then like, what can you offer somebody? And then like, what are your needs, right? And I say that because sometimes you may not know what you're quote unquote good at, but if you take an idea of what can you offer somebody, like it, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, you don't have to think about like, you don't have to place a judgment on yourself about what you're good at and still be able to realize that you can do something and then offer that. Because I think that too many times, and I've been a mentor, so I've done mentorships, like I've been a mentee, I've been a mentor. And I say that because like when there's not like an exchange of value and somebody feels like they're taking, they don't know how to come into the relationship from a good perspective and to get the most that they can out of the relationship. Whereas I feel like if they're actually offering something and they feel like there's like an exchange, then they're more likely to optimize what they're taking out of that exchange. And the person too, like the mentor will see it not just as like a giving sort of relationship, you know, it's an exchange of value. So I think that if there's like a rewording of how these things are, then people don't have to view themselves as quote unquote being good at something.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that a lot.
To me, knowledge is power, right? People say that, but it is very true, and that's why mentorship and being able to mentor or being mentored, like having advisors, is so powerful, because a lot of the information that's out there, whether you're trying to learn coding or break into different industry, right? You can go online, go to Udemy, Coursera, and learn all the skills. But there's just so much more knowledge and information that's not written, that's unsaid, and really not available, right? And a lot of times, some things, if people, especially if they're not super self-aware, right, having the second person to tell us, hey, that's okay. You don't have to be, perfect at this, as long as, and sharing stories like, I didn't know how to code. I just went online and read YouTube videos. And actually I watched the Plutus Pioneer program, 4 or 5 times over. Hey, Nadia, good to see you. We're talking about mentorship and knowledge transfer and all that. Where was I?
We were talking about you weren't this person who knew it all when you first came in.
Right. But to also understand, like, how does that relate to me and where I'm at in life, right? Some things you have to experience for yourself. Some knowledge is earned. Like, how does it feel like to be burned out, right? I don't know if that's a earned knowledge, but definitely what to do after. Like, life is tough. It throws a lot of wrenches in everyone's path, right? And a lot of times the problem seems so big that, especially if you haven't faced that before, you wouldn't know how to overcome it, or even have the courage, the faith, or whatever you need to, not collapse. So having that mentor, whether it's like, hey, I work so much, I'm almost burning out, right? My mental health is at risk, or I feel like I'm so stupid, I'm not learning anything, I don't know where to start, not even what to ask. To have someone who has gone through it, something similar, doesn't have to be exactly the same, who is able to speak to the right time and impart the right knowledge and empower people to get past that challenge, to get past that hurdle. And that's why mentorship, you know, I believe is the one of the most effective ways to learn, one of the most effective ways to create opportunities for people, and it's an agent of change in people's lives, right?
I love that. Thanks then for contributing that. And you know what? I know that Tomi, we're gonna wrap up in 5 minutes, even though we just had some new people join us. But I want to touch on something you just said, Nin, is like, is it a rite of passage? You know, almost to like know what burnout is, or how do I, and I think the thing is, I mean, one of the things that I've learned through my experience in corporate and dealing in teams and all of this stuff is that you're not going to know it's burnout until the people who, how do I say this without sounding like in the companies, as an example, the companies that I worked for, no one's going to tell me like not to burn out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to continue to be driven like a horse until you can't handle it anymore. And in your eyes, there might be pressure to not look weak, if you know what I mean. So it's so good, like you're saying, to have a mentor, and also to have something in our ecosystem that kind of shares like what is burnout for a person. It's different for everybody, but when your relationships in your personal life start suffering, when you can't focus on your children, when, you know what I mean? Like when you're not, different things, like even a little checklist, Tomi, might be good within the system of just saying like, hey, if these things are suffering in your personal life, or if you're not being a good like contributor anymore, you know, it's affecting your ability to contribute. You know, because by the time somebody is burnt out, you know, they could have spent 20 years not living their life. You know what I mean? So I think that there's an opportunity here for mentorship and for things that just bring awareness and more awareness to like, hey, we need to be more self-aware and help each other recognize when somebody is acting a certain way, or most of the times problem arise in these ecosystems because people are burnt out, or they're trying to have too much control because they put so much in, and now it's like, well, I'm holding on to this thing so tight and I must have my way, you know. And it's just like, maybe that is a result of somebody who is, you know, not balanced in you know, their private and their Web3 life, as we all aren't right now, right? So I just wanted to share that. But welcome to all the new people in the room. Let's see. Nadia, I know I'm burnt out when I'm pessimistic and when I'm working on the same time zone as Tomi. Laugh out loud. And just so that everyone in the room, this is a recorded space. So anyone who wants to go back and listen to this session later on, just to give everyone a little, we did an interview with Tomi. He shared a little bit about his personal journey. Not only has he been just such a big contributor to our ecosystem, but he's written 6 books. He has 2 master's degrees in economics and business. He lived without money for 4 years, and he traveled from Finland to Portugal without any money.
Sorry, Dana. That was just the first 2 weeks.
That was just the first 2 weeks?
I did more than 200,000 kilometers.
200,000 kilometers. See, like, I mean, this guy, so he knows, like, we just got a whole, it was just an amazing interview, just learning the things that he learned about himself through this journey that we were able to glean from, and his interest in crypto and the perspectives. It's just a really cool session. And again, thank you, Tomi, for being here and sharing it all with us, especially when it's so late there and you have, you know, trying to be quiet because your family, your little daughter's sleeping and everything.
Before we wrap up, maybe Nadia, might want to say a few words about Catalyst GPS, because I presented the model and got some conversation going, but I think people need to have specific time to discuss those things. And we were talking about what is good about it, and especially the people and culture aspect of it. And maybe you want to chime in here before we finish.
Yeah, it's so hard to just do without knowing what you guys have talked about already. But pretty much for me, when I got here, I came in like hot into Catalyst because I had closed my business and I had not really, I've been doing my work, like I work therapeutically with people who have like deep psychological stuff. I do Eastern arts. And so I was doing that, but it had been a long time since I came into like an environment like Catalyst. And when I got here, it was so enriching and engaging for me. I was so excited. And I was like extremely enthusiastic about doing stuff. And I found it like impossible to get stuff done. It just felt like I couldn't find anything. I didn't know, everything. You guys would say the same thing. I think we also notice those things when we come in here. And just like a craving and a desire to exercise some of the like strategic and process stuff. And when Tomi and I started talking, we spoke this same language, but in a different way. Like he thinks about it differently than I think about it. And the longer you're here, you start to just recognize that we need tools and agreed upon ways of doing things, and the ability to collaborate together without making it too rigid. That's always the thing, right? It's like we want something here that we want to be able to work. One of my teachers always would say, we want to wear the practice like a loose garment, right? You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it so loose that it doesn't stay on. So it needs edges, and we need vocabulary and tools and methods that allow us the freedom to work how we want and to be able to collaborate, especially when we're all very different. Right. So even people who seem like they would be similar can be very different. So the GPS is sort of that. It's like we started by calling it a map, but we ended up calling it a GPS because when you set out on a journey, if you drive across wherever you are, your state, your country, your land, your province, or whatever, there's like a million different ways that you could get there, but you have a destination in mind. And so we designed an agile framework. Mostly it is Tomi's, and I'm very just excited about helping to facilitate the use of it. So when he presented this, it made a lot of sense to me, and it sort of filled that craving for ability to collaborate more in a decentralized environment without disrupting that. And so that's what it is. It's a framework that helps people to strategically come together, top down, meaning I have a vision I want to see come to fruition, or bottom up, meaning I see a problem and I want to react to that problem. And how might I go about that, especially if I'm someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in a leadership role, or not, we have one person we're working with right now who's very shy. And so she's like, I need to be able to do this, but I'm very shy. So now what we're doing is just onboarding people or groups who are interested in doing something, and helping to test that framework out and see how it works with different people and different groups of people, large and small, and different initiatives. And it's a lot of fun. It's also really frustrating, which is kind of part of the process of building anything. But I think as far as Catalyst is concerned, it'll give some different ideas, some examples of having done it. The last thing I'll say is, I think we've talked about it in here before, about I'm like really into rock climbing, and we go to Yosemite a lot, and there's the face of Yosemite. God, it's like totally out of my head right now, but anyway, it was climbed in like 2 years. El Cap, thank you, Megan. You always have it. So wow. That was climbed the first, no one thought you could climb it. And then it was climbed the first time. It took them like 2 years. And then recently that opened up a whole bunch of people. The belief that it could be done that way opened up all different ways of doing it. And then Alex Honnold like free climbed it by himself with no ropes in like 3 hours a couple years ago. So once you set a framework, and once you demonstrate that something can be done, it lets people be a lot more creative around it. And I think overcomes those challenges. So Hopefully I didn't repeat everything that you said, but I'm excited about it. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be neat to see people succeed at the stuff that they want to do or fail at it and learn. So that's good too. How'd I do?
Thank
No,
you.
you
That was amazing.
Great.
You did awesome. But I think we've come to, we're gonna close it up, and I have this quote on my board that I want to say because it just fits perfectly with what we're talking about right here. This is a quote from Peter Drucker. It says, "Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things." So I think that what this GPS system is trying to do is exactly that. Create a framework and a structure so that it's not just about doing things right, it's about doing the right things, and pushing Catalyst forward. So I'm excited about it. I hope you all are too. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, Tomi's books are available for free. I mean, he gives away a lot of his content that he writes. His book, Crypto Curious, is available on Amazon right now. But Rich Without Money and Mind Your Elephant, which now I'm going to take a look at because I'm very very interesting about the ego, is available for free on his I believe it's WordPress, right? I think we put it in the chat earlier. But yeah, check those things out. Remember, CardanoCatalystWomen.com is also another resource. Anybody who's interested, go to the website, reach out to us in the contact page there if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. Is anybody, Juliana, do you have any closing words, or Tomi, do you have any closing words?
Well, thanks. It's been fun, and thanks for listening. And I hope we can continue working together and take this to new heights.
Yeah.